Hey guys, Tayson here from Outdoor Vitals, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up your MummyPod and a few tips and tricks from spending a lot of nights in them as well on the setup. Initially, we've got the hammock set up. This is just our 13-ounce single-person hammock. We've set that up before we started the video, so let's just go ahead and jump into the MummyPod itself. Right here, we've got our 0-degree MummyPod. Just going to go ahead and break this open and set it up. What I like to typically do, we do have this buckle release. Just undo that buckle, you're going to pull it off. And then what I like to do is I like to lay it inside of my hammock to begin with, just to make sure that everything is prepped and ready to go. Also on the very top of this, we do have the suspension kit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in my pocket until I get to the point where I'm using that suspension kit. So I'm just gonna lay it in our hammock here, pull it out, and unroll it. Now, you'll notice first that this zipper is all the way zipped up, and also the zipper here is zipped up, so that's important. The two things that we need to do right now is make sure that the full length zipper, center zipper, is zipped to the top, and then because we're setting it up as a pod, we're going to go ahead and unzip the footbox zipper. Okay, so we've got that totally open. This is all you really need to do to slide it inside of the hammock. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to reach through the footbox all the way up till I come out of the face hole here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop over, unclip the hammock, and we're going to slide it straight through. There we go. Reclip that in. Now this is hanging, and you just stretch that out. It's going to be off the ground. One other thing I failed to note is when we did hang up the hammock, typically you're going to want to hang it a little bit more tight than a loose. It's going to help you sleep a little bit better in this. There's some tips and tricks to sleeping more comfortably in this. We may cover that at the end of the video, but I did tighten the hammock quite a bit. You'll see that we're off the ground, which is what we want to do. We want to keep the bag off the ground, and now we can start looking at our suspension system. So I'm going to take that back out. All right, so inside the suspension system, you're going to get 2 bungee cords, 1/8-inch bungee cords, along with 4 cord locks. So I'm just going to use one of these for now and unravel that. All right, the bungee cord's ready to go. So we've just got the length of the bungee cord and 2 of the cord locks. We're going to work on the foot end first. First thing you want to do is just slide the cord lock onto the very end of this. That's all you need to do on both sides. And now we'll go to the foot end of the bag. Now, typically what you can do is you can run this through any point on your hammock. Because we're on a little hammock stand here, I'm just going to run it straight through the carabiner, which works just fine. And then I'm going to come to our hanging tabs that are on the top of the foot box, and I'm going to put this bungee cord through that, and then this excess cord that's not going through the tie out is going to go back through the same cord lock. I'm not going to worry about tightening them yet. I'm just going to go ahead and put those on, and then we will tighten them once we have all of the cord locks on. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this process on the head end. On the head end, the hanging tabs are just on the hood portion, which is going to be hanging underneath your hammock. All right, so I've got the cord locks on here. What's nice about the suspension system is that it is removable. So it does take a second to attach it when you are using it on a hammock, but it really doesn't take very long at all. I'm going to go ahead and just barely snug these up. It's still going to be quite loose, because what I prefer to do is I prefer to tighten the foot end and position the foot end and then tighten the head end after that. So typically with your MummyPod, you can center it straight in the middle of your hammock, or what I mean is position the MummyPod an equal distance from the foot end of the hammock to the head end of the hammock. However, I have found over time that I prefer a little bit more to hedge it, or to push it a little bit more close to the foot end. The reason I do that is it allows the hammock, when it's coming back to that gathered end, it's going to be a little bit closer, and the closer that is, the easier it is to seal up the hammock. That's just a pro tip, but typically I can put it right in the middle. I'm not going to have any issues. but I also prefer to hedge it a little bit more to that side. That also gives me a little bit more room in the shoulders inside of the hammock. So I'm gonna tighten the foot end of the hammock first. So you just come over here, you're gonna grab the extra line on your cord lock, loosen that cord lock, and you're just gonna pull that cord straight through there. Do the same to both sides and start to get that tight on this end. You can see I'm not that far from the edge of this. And typically what I would recommend is you're sitting, 8 to 12 inches away from the end of this hammock. You really, like I said, you can be hedged more to the middle and dead center everything, or you can hedge it to this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and hedge it to this side a little bit, and we're about right there. Now it's gonna pull back this way when I tighten the other side, so that's gonna be about right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this other side real quick. So I've got everything semi-tight on the suspension right now, but in order to show this to you a little bit better, I'm gonna put something in the hammock so that you can see the foot flap going in and how that works. All right, so I got a little weight in here now. That's gonna help with demonstration purposes. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the foot end and start sealing it up. So first thing that you wanna do when you're sealing it up is you're gonna wanna tighten this drawstring. Now with the drawstring, it is best to kind of get it as tight as you can without getting to the point where you're putting much emphasis into that. Typically, you're gonna get that to be about that size, about the size of a softball, fairly easily without any excess force. That's all you need. Also, never tie a knot in this excess line, because if you did get it too tight by chance, this is gonna be able to slide a little bit and it's not gonna damage your bag. So never tie a knot in that. That just helps you to prevent from damaging it. Now we've got this foot flap that's still hanging out here. I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck this back inside. Now there's two options for doing that. The first option is you can tuck it in all the way, tuck it all the way inside. Now that's what most people are gonna do, and that's just fine. That's gonna work just fine for you. But one thing that I sometimes like to do is I'll tuck it about 50% of the way in. That leaves some of the down on the outside and some of the down on the inside. And I've found that that can sometimes help it to seal and also to not move around. So I tuck it about 50% of the way in, leave a little bit of this fabric out, but I tuck it up against this. That's just gonna help to seal everything up nice and tight. All right, so our foot end is completely sealed up now, nice and cozy. Our head end is nice and firm against this. If you need to though, what you can do is you can just tighten these a little bit. You don't have to put much emphasis on these at all. That's gonna pull it up nice and tight against the bottom, but typically your suspension system's gonna keep it nice and tight. Now the last thing we need to do before we call it good is we wanna come and we wanna open this all the way up, and we wanna check the sag on the hammock. Now this is kind of where it's nice, where I've got some weight in there. Typically what you wanna do though, is you wanna put one hand in the hammock, one hand behind the hammock, and then you're gonna come down here and you're gonna push on the bottom of your hammock like you've got weight in it. And if the MummyPod is touching this hand, right, that's going in between the two, if the MummyPod is touching one half of your hand and the hammock is touching the other half of your hand, you've got the right amount of sag. There's no excess space in there, which is gonna keep you warmer at night. So with this right now, I do have a very small air gap in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten my suspension just a little bit more to keep that from happening. Our foot end is locked. I like where that's at, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the head end just a little bit more. And that's gonna take away that air gap. Yep, so we're nice and firm against the backside. Plus when we go a little bit wider, it'll keep it firmer too. So that is setting up the MummyPod. So this is a fully set up MummyPod that's gonna keep you warm throughout the night. You're gonna sleep very comfortably. It's my personal favorite system to sleep in right now. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at support@outdoorvitals.com, or you can just go to outdoorvitals.com and get additional help and tutorials there. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have some great adventures coming up here soon in the outdoors.